Welcome to the Vibrant Visibility Podcast. Being visible as a soul-led business owner isn't just about the practical strategies, marketing tips, and tech systems. It's also about the internal systems, the safety of your nervous system, the somatic connection, and the embodiment of being a badass CEO that will support you in all of the ups and downs of entrepreneurship. And I'm here to share all of that with you on this show. I'm your host, Shawnee Arsenault, a registered nurse turned visibility coach and business mentor for heart-centered coaches and healers. I created a six-figure coaching practice in my first year of business and scaled to multiple six figures my second year, all in the middle of getting pregnant with my first baby and becoming a new mama. If I can do this entrepreneurship thing, I know you can too. If you're ready to learn how to be a CEO in a way that feels aligned with your heart, become a lighthouse for the people that you're meant to serve, feel free to authentically express yourself and be a magnet for success, and grow your coaching business in a way that is sustainable and fulfilling, I can't wait to be in your ear along for the ride. Alrighty, today we are talking about creative flow. Okay, what even is that? What even is creative flow? This is likely a term that you've heard in the entrepreneurial world, and we're going to break it down. We're going to break it down, what it looks like, what it would look like for you to tap into your most creative, authentic energy every time you sat down to work on your marketing, your content, or really anything in your business. We're going to be diving into that. We're going to be diving into harnessing kind of like that magical, playful, childlike creativity, not by trying harder, but by relaxing into what you really feel called to do, who you really are, and letting that be the foundation of your business and your marketing strategy. And this is why I think that finding your creative flow matters in the world of business. Whenever you can find that sense of flow, that sense of rhythm, and this is going to look different for every single coach. If you're creating from a flowy, authentic, open space, it really does attract aligned clients to you, right? When I think about creativity, I like to think about, I always gravitate towards that visual of us as kids, when we literally did not care about rules or coloring outside the lines or like wearing two different costumes over each other for Halloween, right? Like that's the kind of creative energy that will allow marketing in your business to feel like something that is easy, it's fun, it's flowy, rather than something you have to kind of like sit there and like rack your brain to think about, or it feels like a lot of work, right? Now, I acknowledge that there are challenges to this. Like, many coaches and healers kind of face this challenge in accessing that creative muscle, especially with the constant demand for like new content and fresh ideas and kind of like that hamster wheel that we can get into whenever it comes to creating content and marketing. And I've even had several of my own clients tell me like, I'm not creative. I'm just not the kind of person that can come up with good ideas and execute really well. And I'm here to prove you wrong in this episode. So I'm going to discuss a few things. So some specific tools that you can use, like systems that you can set up. Obviously, we're going to talk about some mindset shifts and, of course, some somatic techniques and, like practical systems, setups to help you tap into that unique, creative rhythm, flow, and show up as your most authentic self in your marketing and have it feel easy. So let's first start with how being authentic is really the cornerstone of this creative flow and why your marketing needs the real you, why we need to find the ability for you to access that real, raw part of yourself and not hold back. Because being authentic, it's the heart of creativity. Going back to that energy we had when we were kids, coloring and painting and using colors that don't go together, or coloring outside the lines, mixing and matching costumes when playing dress up, and just the sheer amount of making shit up that we did when we were younger. Like, don't you guys miss that? I know for sure I do. And think about why. Why did we stop doing that? Because we had adults or authority type figures that told us something was wrong or disruptive. And then because we didn't know any better, we adapted this new way of viewing the world, and our behavior in it was based on these rules that we were told we had to follow, right? So our creative flow gets fucked with at a very, very early age. I think each of us innately has some level of creativity and playfulness and imagination. And it's something we are born with. And then it gets warped by society and our upbringing and all of this other stuff. So this is kind of the journey of getting back to that instinctual part of our personality that can just come up with shit and not worry about being slapped on the hand for it. Even if the idea is really wild or weird, releasing that need for it to be right. Where are my perfectionists at? I'm definitely going to say I was raised in an environment where doing something bad or the wrong way, or in a way that was disruptive or incorrect, was punishable. So that's how perfectionistic tendencies can develop as a way for your nervous system to protect you from the threat of the consequences of doing something bad or doing something wrong. But really, trying to be perfect actually stifles that creative flow, right? Creativity is not perfect. It's not even imperfect. It just is. And it's not something that we have to earn, right? It's an energy that is always accessible to us. So to combat the impact of kind of growing up as a perfectionist and being conditioned to think that things have to be perfect or things have to be done a certain way, we really have to allow our nervous system to feel okay with things being messy, with things being unorganized, and detach ourselves from like the logical reason, because creativity doesn't always make sense. We don't always need to know the why. Think about a fantasy story, right? The reason people love fantasy stories is because these authors create a completely fictional world that would never make sense in reality, but they bring the same human elements to their story that make readers feel emotions, relate to specific situations, fall in love with these fictional characters, and actually care about what happens in the story. So even though it doesn't make sense, it also does make sense, right? Creativity doesn't have to fully make sense. We don't have to know the why. And then whenever we filter ourselves and try to make it make more sense, we disconnect from the uniqueness of it. We disconnect from the unique energy that we bring to our message that makes our message resonate with people. So here's a few practical tips for tapping into that creative expression in a more authentic way and allowing your more like authentic voice to show. First thing here is going to be to take note of your energy. Notice your natural energy, like identifying the times of the day or specific situations or environments or circumstances where you feel most creative and energized, right? Are you naturally like more animated and energized in the morning, or are you better like after a walk? I am typically most creative at night. Honestly, that's when I get the most creative downloads. So I have a practice where I capture like right before bed or even like right after showering at the end of the day. I also have this practice where I kind of log or voice memo myself. I love texting myself. I also get creative whenever I'm moving, right? So I will most of the time have my voice memo app out and open and at the ready whenever I'm on a walk. Actually, there was an episode that I think I just released recently, sometime in October. Maybe it was September. It was a couple months ago. It was on the topic of redefining your relationship with hustle. That entire episode was structured while I was on a walk. I had my voice memo app out and I was just ranting about hustle and the idea of, kind of falling in love with hustle. And it ended up being like one of my most popular episodes. So many of my clients that I've worked with have like come to me after that episode was released and they were like, that was such a good one. So noticing where your natural energy flows and giving yourself some space to capture those creative ideas during those times. Another tip I want to mention is to get really comfortable with unfiltering your thoughts. Okay. A lot of times that filter that gets created whenever we're younger tells us, we can't do this or doing it this way is wrong or bad. And we want to get in the habit, we want to get really comfortable with that more like unfiltered side of us in the back of our heads, because that's where a lot of our creative energy will stem from, right? So practice, jotting down some raw ideas without editing them, keeping a journal or voice notes to capture those unfiltered moments of inspiration without judgment. That's kind of what happened whenever I was on my walk and I was voice memoing. I had this thought and I just had to get it down. And obviously the little bit that I recorded on my voice memo while I was on my walk. That wasn't the actual podcast episode, but I took that voice memo and was able to create a structure around it to make it a little bit more of a cohesive outline. If you've ever heard of the book The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, she talks in that book about implementing a practice called the morning pages, where you just like free write, stream of consciousness 3 pages a day. And what it does is it helps you get to know that unfiltered, like raw dialogue that's in your head. And it also helps you to tap into the messages that might sit deeper in your heart. The more you can kind of unfilter yourself and allow a lot of that conditioning to just like lift off of you, you'll start to realize like what those deeper themes are. Okay, so here's a mini exercise I want to invite you all to do. So go ahead, if you're able, if you're not driving, to close your eyes. Take a nice, like, deep breath here. And think about one thing that you are passionate about in your work. Maybe a topic that you really love to talk about, a topic that is deep on your heart, maybe a topic that you have like a really close, like personal connection to. And I want to challenge you to take your voice memo app out and speak on it out loud for 30 seconds without editing yourself, without stopping, without taking pauses, without taking moments to like look up and try to find the words. I just want whatever comes out to spill out, and taking 30 seconds to do that. If you don't want to record yourself doing this, you don't have to. Maybe just set a timer for yourself. But I think it is also helpful to maybe do the extra challenge of recording yourself so you can listen to it back and pick apart the underlying themes that are inside of that recording. Now, I love this exercise because it forces you to get out of your head and just spill whatever's on your heart, spill whatever is wanting to be released. Now, while being authentic is powerful, it's even more potent when we can ground ourselves somatically. If we can ground ourselves in a deeper way and make sure that our creativity isn't blocked by tension or stress, and that feeling of safety to be creative. So here are some techniques that you can use to kind of ground and open up that creative flow. I believe that creativity thrives when the body is relaxed, when the body is present and open and ready to receive those downloads. And many times we can experience blocks or resistance to that creative energy that originate in the body, often from, feeling tension or stress or feeling like not enough. Like those limiting beliefs that we're holding on to get trapped inside and stored inside of our body. And then it blocks a lot of energy flowing through. So the first thing you can do is kind of like a body scan, right? And of course, like incorporating some breath work into this. I love breath work because it allows you to move that energy through the body, right? Instead of keeping it stagnant and stuck, it allows your cells, your muscles, your state of being to activate. So if you close your eyes, take a couple of deep breaths, tap into like where your body is at right now, what you're feeling right now. Are there any areas of tension? Is there anything that is feeling heavy or tight or uncomfortable? And just kind of noticing where that is, right? And then as you notice those areas, intentionally soften, right? A lot of times whenever I'm nervous, I can notice my jaw tightening. And so if I slow down a little bit and allow myself to be with my body, notice what's happening in my body, I will notice that like jaw tensing, and I will actively do practices that kind of relax my jaw. One thing that I learned in therapy, my therapist is like a somatic therapist too, with my jaw. Whenever I would feel that tension in my jaw, to kind of like move my head up and down like this, and it kind of loosens up those muscles right there. And so that's one of them. And then I also found it interesting. This is going to sound really weird, but if you take your tongue and stick it out over your bottom lip and just kind of let it hang there like this. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see me. If you're not, watch the YouTube video. But if you stick your tongue out like this, and it's such a weird thing, but it kind of forces you to open your mouth, to open your jaw. So intentionally soften those areas that you feel the tension. You can also do what's called like a rooted visualization. So if you close your eyes and you can imagine roots growing from you, right? Like a tree, and giving you that sense of like strength and stability, anchoring you to the earth, anchoring you to the ground, to the floor. And that grounded feeling can help foster that sense of safety to open up creatively. And then one of my favorites, I really love to do this practice, is to shake it out, right? To dance. My most favorite way to get those creative juices flowing is to put on a banging playlist and dance around in my room. I have a specific playlist called Pump Up Anthems. And it's literally just like songs that I can dance to, that I can sing to. And it is so, so helpful in just like moving things around. So put on a song or set a timer for like 1 to 2 minutes and kind of like release that stagnant energy, and shake it out. Dance, move your body. You can also do this by like going on a walk, right? Like going on a walk, working out. Movement, I have found, is one of the most effective ways for that creativity to flow for me. Remember, a relaxed body, an embodied experience will help you create from a place of like genuine inspiration. And then it makes your content resonate more deeply with your audience. Have you ever sat down to create content and then you just feel like totally stuck, but you force yourself to do it anyways? And then the end result just feels so like stale and boring and not emotional, not impactful at all. I highly suggest doing one of the things that I talked about, moving that energy through somehow, and then giving yourself permission to put it down if you're not feeling inspired, right? You don't want to force it. You want to be able to capitalize on the times where you do feel that creative flow. So what I like to do, what I'm doing right now, actually, in this moment, I am batching 4 podcast episodes. I am recording 4 podcast episodes. I've done my makeup once today, and I'm batching a few videos, like short form videos that I'm going to put on Reels, and these full podcast episodes, but they're not going to go out all at the same time. Right. So for the month after this, after I batch all these episodes, I can focus on other things, especially if like my energy dips later in the month. There's room for that because I don't have to put on makeup again and show up and record these videos, record these podcasts, because I've already done that for the month. So that is really helpful for me and my creative flow. And then once we feel grounded in that creative energy and we've kind of accessed that creativity, let's start to look at how this can benefit our business and our relationships and our client connection. Okay, so once we've kind of grounded ourselves and accessed that creative flow, this is a really beautiful space to operate your business from, right? So this space, when we can access this space often, it really does benefit our business, our relationships, our client connections. It serves as a relationship builder, because clients are naturally drawn to genuine, creative, original, unique content because it feels less salesy and more like an authentic invitation. Okay, so like whenever we can find a way to lean into that creative flow, it really allows us as coaches to share our message in a way that reflects our personality and in a way that reflects our values. I mean, being an entrepreneur in general is a very creative profession. We do have to lean a lot more into like innovation and new ideas and ideas that feel like us and not kind of copycatting everybody else. Coaching is a very human-based job. Part of our role as coaches is to honor the human experience of our clients. So we want to make sure our marketing reflects that. And what more natural way to do that than to allow our own creative sparks to guide that strategy, to guide the marketing that we do. I also like to think about storytelling, right? Deepening those client relationships by accessing that creative energy to be able to tell stories. Sharing personal stories, successes, struggles, all the lessons that you've learned specifically helps clients really see you, the coach, as a real, relatable human being. And this is something that I tell my clients all the time, is that the storytelling aspect of marketing is one of the most valuable skills you can learn early on. And you want to learn how to tell good stories that help people tap into their emotions and bring them into an experience and not just kind of saying really generic stuff. I'll give an example of this. One of my favorite marketing emails that I have ever written was just sharing with my audience a letter that I wrote to my younger self. And I received so many emails from that marketing email with responses from people about their own insights from reading the letter, even some who shared their own letter that they wrote. And the way that I wrote that email was in a super creative way. That's not like the typical kind of marketing email that you see, but it was straight from the heart. And it was, in a perspective that was different that I hadn't really seen any other coach do. And so that's why I think it landed really well with my audience, was because it was new, it was a fresh take on things, and it was so authentic, it was so genuine. I didn't even think about sharing that letter until, way later. I had written this letter way earlier, months earlier. And I was just kind of brainstorming different ways that I could reach out to my audience through my email list and connect with them on a deeper level. And I felt like that was a really great way. All right, let's talk about how to capture and organize these ideas without losing the inspiration, without losing that genuine energy. And I'm always going to talk about systems, right? I'm going to mention how important systems are until I'm blue in the face. Systems are so key for keeping that creativity door open, right? Creative ideas can come at any time. Often they come unexpectedly. Like, how many times have you been in the shower and you've had an idea, but you haven't been able to write it down because you're in the shower and you don't have access to that kind of thing, right? This happens to me all the time. Having reliable systems helps ensure that your ideas aren't lost and they can be revisited and expanded later on, right? So here are my top tools, my top favorite tools for capturing inspiration. And I do these all very sporadically. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I have a loose system. This is like a loose system that I have. Voice memos. Voice memos, voice memos, voice memos. These are ideal for capturing spontaneous ideas or scripts whenever I'm on the go. And then I also have some kind of idea organization system that I use. I use Airtable for this, but you can use whatever works for you: Trello, Google Sheets, Notion, whatever. And this is mainly for organizing ideas into categories like content ideas and topics and inspiration. So you can get kind of an overview of all of the ideas that you do have, and you can sort through them later. You want this system to be easily accessible. So I love Airtable because there's also a phone app, and the phone app is really great and it's easy to access, so I can look at it at another time. Definitely Google Drive. Having a Google Drive folder set up to organize all of your assets and your files and your photos and your videos and stuff like that. If you are in my membership, you know that I have a very specific section on organizing your Google Drive and setting up your folders this way. And I also would recommend doing some kind of content calendar type thing. A digital calendar is best to kind of keep track of your ideas and schedule them, and then keep track of what you're promoting, when your launches are, etc. I have a specific calendar dedicated to my marketing plan, and I have it on a completely separate account so that it doesn't get cluttered with all of my other business stuff. But I like to have an overview of, this is whenever I'm launching this. This is whenever I'm promoting this. For my one-on-one coaching spots, I indicate on my calendar when I have a one-on-one coaching spot open, and then I kind of start promoting a couple months in advance so that I can fill that spot, right? So that's a system that will really help you keep track of what kind of content you want to be creating and what kind of content you can plan out ahead of time after you take advantage of bursts of creativity whenever you have them. And then the last little tip I have for you here is the message yourself method. So the message yourself method is so simple, so easy. The fact that more people don't do this kind of boggles my mind. But if I'm scrolling on Instagram and I see a reel that I really love, that I want to emulate, that I want to do my own version of, I DM myself that reel. And then I text inside of that DM what I liked about it, what my idea is. And then I have my VA. I used to do this on my own whenever I didn't have a VA, but I used to go back and have a task on my calendar for every week to kind of capture the things that I DM myself and put them inside of Airtable or put them inside of a spreadsheet. And now my VA does this for me. But DMing yourself and texting yourself the ideas can be so, so helpful. It can make sure that nothing gets lost, especially if you have like specific links or a content idea from another creator or a reel or a post that you really like that you want to remember so you can reference back to it whenever you're creating your content. Obviously, all of these things are part of my system, my very loose, structured system. And it's not a perfect system, right? It's a little bit messy, to be quite honest. But having a process, having some kind of process, even if it's messy, for collecting and organizing those ideas frees up mental energy for you and keeps the inspiration flowing. It kind of unkinks that creative hose, if you will. And for me, I'll kind of share from my own experience and what I've found to work for myself. Every coach is different, okay? But for me, I like to batch. So I have one day where I outline my podcast episodes, another day where I record, another day where I plan out the content to promote it, right? So today is a batching day for me. Today I am batching for podcast episodes and I'm recording 4 different podcast episodes. And that's really all I'm focusing on today. I'm not focusing on editing. I'm not focusing on anything else other than just getting the videos recorded. And then another day I will go back and pick little clips that I want to use for promotion. And then another day I will edit. For those of you juggling responsibilities, especially, those balancing business and motherhood or business and a family or other aspects of your life, parenting especially in the early years can be a constant balance between responsibilities and personal time and business time. And so creativity may not feel easily accessible when you are drained and when you haven't gotten sleep. So a few practices you can include to kind of help with that balance between being a mom, being a wife, all of these other roles that you play, and nurturing that creativity even in small moments. I want you to start thinking about micro moments of inspiration, right? So jotting down ideas or inspirations in little micro moments, like during a nap break or while cooking or while cleaning. One of my favorite things to do to kind of capture creativity or to allow those creative juices to flow is whenever I'm rocking my toddler to sleep at bed, I'll have my headphones in while listening to something that will get those creative juices flowing. So I've been writing a lot, like fictional stories just as a hobby. And so I'll listen to like YouTube videos on writing or listening to a fantasy audiobook that can help me with ideas for the story I'm writing. I might even put like a specific playlist of songs on that can help me get some of those ideas flowing too. I always love texting and messaging myself and that trick because it takes less effort than to find the note app on my phone or open the Google Doc or the spreadsheet where my ideas live. And I can always go back and log those ideas through my texts later. But those are some ways that I kind of take little moments of like my kid napping. Whenever my son is napping next to me, I'll make sure I have like my laptop or my iPad out so I can kind of do some creative work. And a lot of times whenever he's napping, I'm playing really nice, like relaxing music in the background anyways. So that kind of helps get me in the vibe. If you have kids that are old enough to participate, involve your kids in creativity. Sometimes involving your child in like really simple creative activities can spark new ideas or give a fresh perspective. And it can also make creating for your business really fun because you're kind of combining having fun with your kid and being present and being in mom mode for your kid while also creating for your business. And then the next thing I would say is to really prioritize rest and fun. Okay. I talked about this in my episode called 5 Money-Making Actions That Nobody Talks About. Rest and fun were both on that list. And if you are well rested, if you are making time for fun, those things boost your creativity, right? It helps you show up for your business with more ease and with more inspiration instead of having to like pull at straws. And I don't even know if that's the right term, but whatever. I talked more in depth about this in that episode. And if you can incorporate rest as much as possible and fun and playfulness as much as possible, those will directly affect how creative you feel in your business, your capacity to execute new ideas. All right, as we wrap up, I want to revisit why accessing your creative flow and creating those systems to help you capture those ideas, why it matters so much in building a heart-centered, aligned business. So it allows you to be authentic, right? Being authentic and real in your creative expression is so, so crucial for building that heartfelt connection with your audience, with your clients. Remember too, that your body has to feel safe to access that creative energy. So somatic practices, visualizations, journaling, those types of things, if they are incorporated into your daily routine, those are powerful tools to help you ground, to help you release tension, to help you feel open and ready to receive those creative downloads. And then, of course, leaning on to tech, to systems, to a process that can support consistency with your creativity. And it is possible. It's possible to balance this with personal responsibilities like motherhood. Okay. It doesn't have to be forced or perfected. It can be a little bit messy. The more you trust yourself and allow what's true for you to come through, the more vibrant your content will be. Like, you'll be able to be more visible in such a way that feels free and expressive and resonate deeply with the people that you're meant to help. Now, I'm going to do a little bit more on creativity in a couple of weeks because I have a special announcement that I am going to be sharing in a couple of weeks, not next week, but the week after, I believe. So stay tuned for that. We're going to talk even more about creative energy, creativity, and I'm going to have a special guest on that episode with me. If this resonated with you, if creative flow is something that you have struggled with, I highly recommend you join my free Facebook group, Visibility and Tech Support for Coaches. I would love to support you one-on-one. I have upcoming spots for one-on-one coaching and mentorship opening up in January. So for those of you who are ready to dive deeper into your visibility journey, really tapping into your creative flow as an entrepreneur, I would love to hold space for you and support you there with my tailored guidance and mentorship. The application for those one-on-one spots will be in the show notes for you. And I just want to leave this reminder here that creativity is not something you have to earn. It is something that you have within you by default, okay? All of us have creativity within us, and by connecting with it, by connecting with that like childlike, playful energy, you are connecting with your true, most vibrant self, and then allowing that to shine so that your people can find you. Right? So go out there. I want you guys to create. I want you to share your light. The world is waiting for your message. And whenever you access that creative flow and allow that to show in your marketing and your messaging, it gives other people permission to access that sense of creativity within themselves and their own lives too. All right. I love you guys. I'll see you next week. And I hope you have a good rest of your Tuesday. Bye. Thanks so much for tuning in today. If this was helpful for you, subscribe to the show to make sure you're always in the loop when a new episode is out. And I would love to invite you to join me in the free Visibility and Tech Support for Coaches community, where we hang out and chat about all things visibility, tech, systems, and heart-centered business building. I regularly share tips and tutorials and go live every now and then, and it's just nice to be in a community with other like-minded coaches and healers. So you can join this free space at alignwellco.com/community, and I can't wait to see you there.